Before the release of Splatoon 3, Tricolor Turf War is advertised as one of the major selling points to make the experience fresh and distinguish this game from Splatoon 2. The mode was initially created as a comeback mechanic where the team that was winning at halftime would defend against two teams of two, representing the other teams. However, after only 3 Splatfests in which fans were disappointed for one reason or another, the devs ditched the idea entirely and made it so now anyone can queue for Tricolor and all teams can get put on defense. So today, we're going to see how Nintendo botched the execution of a mode that sounded like a great concept. We're also going to see if this mode can be fixed, and if so, how we could go about it. If you like this video and want to maybe see more content like this, make sure to like and subscribe. I'm looking to gain a small foothold as a Nintendo content creator who specializes in Splatoon. With that out of the way, let's get into the video. To start, let's remember that the initial purpose of Tricolor was to be a comeback mechanic for the two teams losing Splatfest at halftime. For the first 2 Splatfests, I can say with confidence that Tricolor did its job. Some may say it did its job a little too well. In both of the first 2 Splatfests, the team that had the lead at halftime ended up losing it. This led to Tricolor being hated by people on defending teams, and being the primary culprit amongst members of those teams for the losses, feeling that the mode was unfair, and they may not be entirely wrong in thinking of that. At launch, the way that scoring of clout for Tricolor Turf War worked was this. If the defending team managed to win, each member of the team will receive 3,000 clout. If either of the attacking teams won, however, the members of the winning attacking team will receive 6,000 clout each, and the members of the other attacking team will receive 5,000 clout each, regardless of whether they place second or third. Meanwhile, the defending team would get nothing. In contrast, even if the defending team won, the attacking teams could still get clout for capturing Ultra Signals, or even attempting to capture them. Given how the timer to capture an Ultra Signal decreases for every failed attempt, all the way down to a mere 20 frames, it can be considered optimal to put on a bunch of quick respawn and just throw yourself at the Ultra Signal over and over again until you cap it. This all or nothing nature for the defending team, while attacking teams could just touch mid for a second and still get clout, was a big part of the problem. Along with the fact that victory clout for the attacking teams would stack with clout gained from capturing and or attempting to capture Ultra Signals, the possible gains for attacking teams were much greater than that of the defending team. Even if all 3 teams won roughly an equal amount of times on Tricolor, it was likely that the overall clout gains of the other 2 teams could be upwards of triple that of the leading team. Hearing this, you may think, why not just avoid the mode if you're winning at halftime then? And to that I say, that's the neat part. You couldn't! The defending team didn't get a chance to choose if they wanted to queue for Tricolor matches at launch. Instead, they'd queue for normal Turf War games, and at random, the game could decide you'd get put into a Tricolor match fighting for clout gains that are laughable in comparison to what the attacking teams can get. Well, at least the attacking team is having fun with the mode, I guess? Well, that's where you'd be wrong, because the attacking teams were struggling to find Tricolor games in the early days of Splatoon 3. So yes, this mode is not just miserable for the defenders, but also for the attackers, as these games were hard to come by. Speaking from my experience on Team Gear, I queued for Tricolor games for about 5 hours on the second day, and though I don't remember the exact number of actual Tricolor games I got, I do know that I could count the amount on one hand. Just to put into perspective how ridiculous that is, let's talk about how many games could be played in that time. 5 hours is equal to 300 minutes. One game of Turf War takes 3 minutes. Also assume that queue times for games, along with time taken up before and after Turf War matches, takes up an average of roughly 90 seconds per match. With that all calculated, assuming one played consecutively, never took small breaks in between that time period, and never got any disconnections, you could play 66 games in that time frame. Although for me, I'm sure that number was closer to roughly 40 to 50, so I'll go straight down the middle and calculate about 45 games I played in that time frame. Out of all of those, assuming I got 5 games of Tricolor, that would mean I actually got to play the mode I queued up for 11% of the time. And there are definitely people who report even lower percentages than that. With these flaws, changes had to be made, and they were, but at the cost of the mode's original identity. For the Chill Season 2022-23 update, the devs changed Tricolor so that any team could be put on defense, regardless of current ranking in the Splatfest. They also heavily buffed the clout that the defending team will receive, from 3,000 per player all the way to 9,000, before taking synergy bonus into account. They also incorporated a mechanic in which if the first place team was put on defense, or the second or third place team was on the attack, they would get a 1.5 times multiplier for clout. This makes the mode's clout distribution go from heavily in the favor of the attacking team to way too even for comebacks to be probable. Ever since this rework, the teams that were leading at halftime have won the tricolor category 4 out of 6 times, and that number was this close to being 5 out of 6. It also makes it so that Splatfests are almost always decided early. The sneak peek winner has won 5 out of 6 Splatfests, and the same fact is true for the halftime leader. In trying to make the mode more fair for everyone else, they've ironically made it so that the team that is winning at halftime is most likely gonna keep it. We literally just saw a team that was winning at halftime lose for the first time since the rework after 8 months. The mode is going through an identity crisis in which the developers intended as a comeback mechanic, but now don't know what to do with it. And so they've just made it into a fun side mode that now counts for part of the Splatfest rules. It's lost a lot of what initially made it special for the player base. While the way it works now is an improvement from how it was at launch, that was a low bar and the mode still leaves a lot to be desired. But as a mode that was meant to be a selling point, and one of the things that was meant to show us the chaotic nature of Splatoon 3 as a game, what if we gave this mode one more shot as a comeback mechanic? We've got a lot of problems to fix, so buckle up. First off, even if we make the semantics of the mode as balanced as possible, it doesn't really mean much if the maps and themes aren't really balanced, but for the sake of the video, I'll pretend that I've just waved a magic wand and every team and map in Splatfest from now on is equally fair for all sides. Now, I'll try to make my explanation for the new tricolor system as simple as possible. So, imagine we're at the beginning of a tricolor turf war match. The first place team, the defending team, has a total of 24,000 clout, evenly divided among them. If the defending team wins without losing an ultra signal, they get all of the clout to themselves. However, if one of the attacking teams manages to capture an ultra signal, every player on the defending team loses 1,500 of the clout, and the 6,000 clout goes to the team that captured the ultra signal. If the other ultra signal gets captured as well, another 6,000 clout goes from the defending team to the team that captured the ultra signal. This 12,000 clout is all dependent on defending ultra signals. If the defending team loses the match, however, then they can see 2,250 clout each to the winning team and 750 clout each to the losing team. The defending team then has any clout remaining from ultra signals they manage to defend cut into a quarter. So for example, if the defending team loses but defends both ultra signals, they still manage to walk away with 3,000 clout total, while losing one ultra signal cuts them down to 1,500 clout, and losing both leaves them with nothing. This rework was made to make sure that the team that wins is still the most heavily rewarded in tricolor, but also to tip the scales a bit more in the losing team's direction than it is right now, but not quite as heavily as it was at launch. This helps it somewhat regain its initial identity, but in a way that I think is much more fair for all teams. However, the best way to test this would probably be to revert the scoring format for Splatfest to how it was at launch, so that we don't risk the tricolor category being a free loss for defending teams in the case the scoring is too much for them to overcome. And by having it continue to be in its own separate category, it defeats the purpose of it being a comeback mechanic for the clout team by teams first half of the Splatfest. If these changes were to work and make the mode more balanced for its intended purpose, then the defending side might have more fun playing it, and might be more inclined to willingly play the mode, instead of being forced into it, which means that there could be opportunities for attacking teams to find tricolor more often, which will make the experience more fun for everyone involved. Before we go, however, I just want to bring up a couple of our changes to how tricolor will work as a mode that would fix our problems that I have with it, while making life easier for defenders in a mode in which they'll have a clout disadvantage. Attacking teams will no longer be able to get clout just by attempting to steal an ultra signal. They'll only get it once they manage to actually capture one. Also, the minimum amount of time it will take to capture an ultra signal would be increased from 20 frames to 60 frames, in order to reduce the effectiveness of quick respawn rushing in to shorten timers for capturing ultra signals, and incentivize looking for clean out plays that help create openings for these increased timers. Lastly, if there's a lead swap at the end of a rotation, at the beginning of the next rotation, the defending team will be swapped out to reflect this, instead of allowing the already surpassed team to get buried. With that out of the way, thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great day.